Okay, so today we are going to do Zach's good idea to focus on Pentecost because we believe Pentecost is happening next week on the 16th because of two counts, not just one. And there's multiple evidences for this, as we'll get into as we go through some of the notes that we have here to go over. But I do think probably the first thing to do is look at it from Leviticus 23, which is the most famous chapter for the annual Sabbaths, or also known as the high holidays, right? But there's other chapters, but this is a good one to start with because it's the most famous one.
Uh,
Um,
And just remember, when it comes from the scriptures, it is the word of the Lord.
right, which is what we like to focus on here, and helping people understand it better, right? Which
Yeah.
is actually, for those who are not familiar, might be seeing this structure here where it's waving and weaving back and forth. This is Hebrew poetry called chiasms. And the reason I do that is because I do believe it helps it make it more understandable. Uh,
Yes, and also just to point out that a well-constructed chiasm looks like a very sturdy suspension bridge.
yes, yes. Um, there's some people out there that they do some really weird ones. In some cases, I think they're trying to force it, and they don't look like a good suspension bridge, as Britt Bin is calling it. But I do think the good ones um, do look like a good suspension bridge, and you'll see here there's chiasms inside of chiasms, and sometimes even chiasms inside of that. And so sometimes it takes a bit of effort to bring them out, but I do it to make it easier to understand. And a lot of people notice that the scriptures do a lot of repeating, right?
Mhm.
And that's because it's actually doing these Hebrew poetry.
They use chiastic patterns. The repetition is a result of chiastic pattern.
Yeah. Yes. So with that, in fact, uh, I never really know what's best to how to read these things, but I think we'll go from stanza or groups to groups, right? A stanza to A stanza. Um,
Yes.
so Zach, will you read the first A?
Like all those A's?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the yeah, because of the subchiasms, right?
Okay. And he shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that he brought the sheaf of the wave offering.
Okay, so hold on real quick. Let's just bring something out here. So this is two A's, or an A and B together, and they're both describing the same day that it's talking about. And it's talking about first fruits, right?
Yeah.
That's when this first count of Shavuot Pentecost starts. Okay. And they're just describing two ways, and even in English we do this sometimes to help bring out the imagery and make sure people know what we're talking about. It we'll say the same thing multiple ways, right? Okay, so let's go read the rest of this.
7 Sabbaths shall be complete, even unto the morrow after the seventh Sabbath shall ye number 50 days.
So here it's these so this whole thing has an A B C, and that's a common Hebraic structure, an ABC. In fact, you'll see another ABC here in the center, which is the highlight and the focus of chiasms. But this ABC first says, here's when you start counting, here's your first count, and then here's your second count. Okay, so there is two counts here. And just FYI, 49 does not equal 50 the last time I went to algebra. Now, I do understand
That's
it was a
basic,
little
man.
while ago that I went to algebra, but I do programming quite a bit, and I know in computers 49 is not 50. Okay, so
Wait a
What
minute.
if you
Is
make
that
49 equal
is
to
that
50?
algebra or just simply, or is that simple alphanumerics?
well, you know, you're right. It's probably not algebra, but that's just basic definition, I think.
Right.
49 is not 50. Okay, people.
Right.
But and even let's just look at this verse that talks about the second count a little bit. uh 7 Sabbaths you shall be complete. Oh, in fact, we should well, let's go back to that in a minute. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. Now, you shall number 50 days. After the 7th Sabbath, you start counting 50 days. Okay. Now, that's the King James Version. I do understand that 50 is after 49. And so if you say it's one count, I can somewhat understand that. But as we look in some other evidences later, you'll see that's not the case. But also, I mean, there's lots of different various translations. But this scriptures is an important one. It has its pros and cons, but it was written by Messianic Jews. So Jewish believers who believe that Yeshua is the promised Messiah, right? And it's common in Messianic congregations. But let's see how it translates these two verses. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought forth the sheaf of the wave offering, so that's talking about first fruits of barley, okay? You shall count yourselves 7 complete Sabbaths. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. So to me, this one makes it more clear that you're supposed to count 50 days after those 7 complete Sabbaths. Okay. And I think we probably don't need to look at more translations unless someone wants to. But
Okay.
No, I think we're good.
So the other thing that's interesting, 7 complete Sabbaths. So that phrase actually gets into Lunar Sabbath issues. Because in fact, maybe let me get a picture up. Well, in fact, I actually kind of got
because the earth has not existed in a continuous 7-day week.
No, I mean, you just go look at calendar history and knowing how the calendar has changed tons of times, and even during the calendar that we use today actually used to have 8 days in it. It's been modified multiple ways. It's not the Gregorian calendar is not God's calendar. It just simply is not. God's calendar is defined by the sun and the moon.
It's Gregory's.
According to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
Yeah. So let me show this picture and then we can sidetrack on that a little bit. Because that would probably be a good sidetrack with this picture I'm just about to show. Because it might not it's going to look a little weird for a lot of people. Okay. And I understand that. But this is God's
calendar. Yeah.
So, and this, I'm mainly going to start getting into the 7 Sabbaths the complete issue that goes on here. Okay. But see, here's the first moon of the year, which starts in the spring. And then here's Passover and unleavened bread. Okay. And then you're supposed to count.
The count starts there on 15, right? Or is it on 22?
Well, it's 22. Well, it did because it's the first Sabbath. So that's what the 22. Yeah. We'll talk about that in Acts too, because that's in Acts 20:21. But anyways, here's the first Sabbath. Okay. 1, 2. Oh, look at that. This one going from here to here, there's this extra day, new moon day. And that's why this extra day is why they call it 7 Sabbaths complete, because it completely went from Sabbath to Sabbath and not just 7 days. Most Sabbaths, look at these. Most of them are 7 days. See this 8 to 15 to 22 to 29. They're 7 days each. Now look, you go from this 29, 30.
Yep.
And now this is why we're going Sabbath complete here, is because sometimes
because actually this Sabbath on 29 is not complete until 1.
Right.
The Sabbath is
that's interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. I can see that.
Yeah, that Sabbath on 29 is not complete until 1.
That makes sense, actually. I hadn't thought of it that way. Because and to go along with that, so for those who don't know, new moon days are Sabbaths, and so
that's the third Sabbath, the month of Sabbath.
There's 3 types of Sabbaths, okay? There's the weekly Sabbaths, which everybody knows about. There's the annual Sabbaths, the high holidays, which some people know about and some people do. But there's the third Sabbath that not many people do. In fact, the only ones that take it seriously, in my experience, are lunar Sabbatarians, because it is a non-work day and a worship day. And so here's this 29, that's a Sabbath. 30 is a Sabbath, and the first of the next moon is a Sabbath. And I can see, I think that Ben's bringing out a good point. That's why that's 7 complete Sabbaths, because those 3 days together are Sabbaths, and they're complete. And I think that's a good point, Ben. Thank you. Wow. Okay. But anyways,
Interesting.
that's kind of bringing out the 7 Sabbaths complete issue. Okay.
Right. So Lunisolar Sabbath is the new moon day.
No, the
So someone's got a question. Wait, so lunar Sabbath is new moon days. So the lunar Sabbath is connected to new moon days. So new moon day is a third type of Sabbath, and your weekly Sabbaths are counted from new moon day.
yes.
Right. And so we could go into some scriptures on new moon day. I'd rather not sidetrack to that too much, but we can do that next week if you want to come. Because I do want to stay somewhat focused on Pentecost. But I did want to explain the 7 Sabbaths complete. And I think Ben brought out a very good point on that. But let's go back to the verse now.
That is interesting.
So I think we finished the first A.
Yep.
Zach, you willing to do the last day?
Yep. And you shall proclaim on the self-same day that it may be that it may be an holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations.
Now, so this brings out a couple of things. One, there is confusion in the body about what high holidays you actually have to take off of work. Okay. Pentecost, Shavuot is where you have to take 1 day off. Okay. Now, this year it's actually on a Sabbath, so you don't have to take off an extra day. Some years, it may not be on a Sabbath, and it could be on the 28th. Okay. So let me go back to the other picture. So this is a yearly calendar. Now, the issue that comes with this is if the third moon has a 30th day or not. Okay. And the reason why this matters is because that 30th day of the third moon is part of the 50 days. If there is no new moon in the third moon, as there is in this year, it pushes Pentecost Shavuot to be the 29th. Now, if there is a 30th day on the moon on the third tongue twister on the third moon, it'll push it to the 28th, right? Because there's 2 counts. One is 7 Sabbaths, which doesn't matter if the second moon has a third or 30th day in it or not, right? Because it doesn't matter. But when you count 50, actually specific 50 days, that 30 day of the moon can shift the count off some. Okay.
By a day or whatever.
Yeah. So here's another interesting point. So last year was a better example of this. So, and we'll just pretend this is last year's. Okay. And so we'll see a line under the 28. Let's use our imaginations for just a minute. And you'll see that there's 3 days in a row. Okay.
4.
Well, I'm not counting New Moon Day. Okay. New Moon Day is something else. But if you forget New Moon Day and you go from the 28th, because back in Moses's day, every moon had 30 days in it. Okay. I know this is another sidetrack, but just I have a resource page. I'll put it in the notes. You guys can look at it. That changed around 700 BC. Okay. But back in Moses's day, when this law was given, the moons always had 30 days. And so it would have been the 28th So it's 29th and the 30th. Now, this is not scriptural. This is extra canonical, but there is extra canonical beliefs that Shavuot Pentecost was a 3-day celebration, which would make sense. 28, 29, and 30. Those are because you already started to celebrate on the 28th.
Mhm.
Now you have the Sabbath and the
Sabbath.
new moon day, which goes along the traditions of the weekly Sabbaths or annual Sabbaths of unleavened bread. There's the tradition that you stay the 22nd day, and which is a Sabbath. Same with where is it? Oh, here it is. With tabernacles, the
Right.
22nd. It's a day that they say you should stay because it's a Sabbath, so you just stay anyways. It's that extra day. And what I'm saying here, that same Pentecost Shavuot, they just kept the holiday going like they did on tabernacles and unleavened bread.
Hmm.
That makes it 3 days. Now, the reason I'm bringing this out, for those who believe in the restoration, how many days did Yeshua visit in 3 Nephi 11 when he came?
3 days.
Days. He stayed for 3 days. Guess what? It's
Cool.
because it was Pentecost.
Right.
He was giving the Nephites the law on Pentecost, just like he gave the children of Israel the law on
What
Pentecost.
better day to do it on? I mean,
Right.
good grief.
Well, and then as I like to call Sermon on the Mount sometimes, Sermon on the Torah, because it's actually an explanation how to keep Torah. But
And Sermon on Torah was delivered at Pentecost.
yes, it was in the New Testament and in the Book of Mormon.
Yep.
And there's people out there that talk about how they bring out the parallels and show that Sermon on the Mount was given during Pentecost. There's a lot of parallels, but
So,
anyways,
yeah, which I mean leads me to believe that this would be something that we would be doing eternally, because this is such an important day and such an important time to him. He does his biggest things on this day.
Well, my question is this: Does God does God operate in his appointed times or what?
oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Genesis 1:40. Yeah.
Let's see, appointed times and seasons.
Only
Not
when
to
it's
sidetrack on
convenient to
this too much, but in the garden, when Yahweh came after Adam and Eve partook of the fruit, he came at an appointed time.
Yep.
Anyways, okay.
That's going to be a part of my upcoming. That's going to be a part of the Sabbath post that I'm putting forward.
Right. I don't know which day it was, but I wonder if it was Day of Atonement. But anyways, that's just
Yeah.
a quick rough thought. I
That's
don't have a lot to back it right now.
but there's not a whole lot to back that up. So
Yeah, I don't have, that's just a personal opinion. I don't have a lot of backing on that. So take that with a big grain of salt. Okay. Anyways. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the verse now.
Get into the bees.
Okay. So oh, what in the world did I just do? Okay. So we talked about, oh yeah, so if we look at both A's here, you'll see that the first A is talking about when to have it, and then the
Yep.
second A is saying have it forever, and forever means never ending, not
Yeah.
the stop.
eternal.
It's eternal.
Yeah.
Not even when someone dies, you still need to keep doing
Or
it.
not even when we change our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not even when God switches the law out on you.
Well,
Oh,
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I know.
you need to put that Aleister Crowley Bible away.
Yeah, so you need to actually you need to burn that Bible, and you've seen the verse. I don't want to sidetrack more on that one again, but anyways,
You're right.
for those who want, come ask me. I'll show you the verses for burning.
It
We
says
go
your
through every
generation.
week.
Okay, first off, it's important to define children of Israel. I think we need to define children of
Hey,
Israel. I'm seeing in the chat.
Dorshan has a question.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for
Yep.
watching.
And we have a question in the chat. So yeah, it's I think it's important that we define children of Israel.
Yeah, so children is a Hebrew idiom for followers, and Israel is Yahweh's people. It's those who follow Yahweh's ways. In fact,
Okay, so
they-
Jesus himself said, I can raise of these stones children unto Abraham. So he's not talking about literal bloodlines.
no, he's not. In fact, I honestly believe when he says, from these stones I can raise children of Israel, he's talking about revelations.
Yeah.
Stone and rocks are symbolic
So-
of Yahweh's ways and words and revelations.
And here's one more bit of information. If you look into the word Israel, what does Israel mean? And no, it does not just mean let God. No, it does not mean let God prevail.
It means wrestle with Yahweh.
It means what the scriptures say it means.
Yeah. He was
Thou
wrestling
hast
with God.
Thou
when he
hast
got-
wrestled with God and man, and like a prince have prevailed. Israel means what it literally means when you break it down into its parts is Prince of God.
So when they say it means let God prevail, that's twisting it like hardcore.
Yep. Become a prince or princess with God. Exactly.
Wow.
Someone who has successfully struggled with God and become a prince, princess. So that's the point, is that Israel is not a bloodline.
No, it's not a
It's
bloodline.
somebody who had so the children of Israel, if it's the children of Israel are those who follow in the ways who follow in the ways of God and have prevailed.
Yeah.
That is what the children of Israel are. So when it says in your generations, throughout your generations, he's talking about Israel. And he's not talking about a bloodline. He's talking about the generations of those who follow El
Right.
and
And
have
also,
God to be their judge.
here's something that actually goes with the holiday that we're talking about. It was not just Israelites that was at Mount Sinai when the law was given. It was a mixed multitude.
Yes, it was.
That's true.
In fact, so it's not canonical, this part that I'm going to say, but I do believe it, okay, that when they heard the voice at Mount Sinai, it was in multiple languages. So
Okay.
the reason I bring that out is what happened in Acts 2, which was another Pentecost event, Shavuot event. It was the gift
Levels
of
of
tongues, and they
meaning do not contradict each other.
taught in the different languages to the people that who didn't all just speak Hebrew, right? Yes, there are deeper meanings in these things, and hopefully we're helping people see the different
Levels of
meanings.
meaning do not contradict each other. That's
Right.
this is the
In
point
fact,
that I
on
make.
that point, I'm gonna shamelessly plug something I have. Sorry.
That's all good.
The deeper levels of meaning do not contradict or make void the higher, the other, the base, the baseline interpretation.
Correct. So here's a little something I put in my bishops are judges of Israel post. Zach, you want to read that right here? I'll highlight it.
You might be you might be thinking I'm taking that statement too literally. I would have to disagree, as I do agree there is much symbolism in it. I have to say it is to be read literally also. One thing we learned when studying about Pardes
Okay, so I
is,
see.
is that yes, it is that the deeper levels of meaning or symbolic and understanding do not contradict or negate the more surface levels or literal of understanding.
So yeah, so the thing is a lot of people will use that idea of partes to assign all kinds of meaning to scripture that is not there.
Right. A lot of the Pharisees and Sadducees, false traditions, will supposedly use deeper meanings to come up with contradiction teachings. And
One of the most stunning examples of this is when in Deuteronomy it tells the people not to incline to the majority in wickedness by means of this idea of deeper meanings. They slashed off everything outside of incline to the majority and made that a principle of
yeah, they'll
and
take
and
stuff
that
out of
is
context.
directly contradictory to the actual meaning of the verse.
Right. And so this is all over the place, but I'm going to read this one from Joseph Smith, where I'm not going to read all of it because I've talked about other parts before, but how it may be asked, was this known to be a bad angel? By his contradicting a former revelation. Now, I would add here, even the same revelation, as in how a lot of these Orthodox occult teachers will read into these things to make one revelation mean this in one case and this in another, and they're contradictory to each other. That's not how it works. God's word is consistent. In fact, how do you know if it's by a bad angel? By contradicting a former, or I'm going to say in this case, the same revelation. Okay?
Yeah, so I would also add that when we're looking to deeper meanings, that the word contradicting is important. It may change, the deeper meaning may change the way we see some of the more surface meanings, but it will
Right.
never contradict.
Right. Very
Say
good.
something that is absolutely different and what the heck?
Right. I agree. The deeper levels can focus on different aspects, but they do not contradict each other. Okay.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go back.
Hey guys, while we're I'm gonna have to jump off. I got a early day tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh yeah, have a good time scrubbing books.
Yeah. On that note, good night.
Have a good night,
Take care.
Josh.
Thanks for
Love
coming.
you, buddy.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah.
Love you,
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right. So, I think we're on B now, right? So, maybe I'll take a turn reading this first B. And ye shall offer a new bread offering unto Yahweh, that ye shall bring out your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. So, well, real quick, I should probably say this. I know I said bread when it said meat, but the meat offering, and especially with the next line, it makes it obvious and what it's made out of. It is a bread offering. That's a interesting old English translation. It is bread. It's literally bread. Okay. And 2 waves of 10th deals. I do not know what 2/10 deals is. Okay. I personally don't know. Someone might. It's just not something I've looked into. But later in here, oh no, I can't find it. There's a lot of words. Anyway, okay, it's actually in that verse. It's 2 loaves. So when it's dealing, and then we'll get into this more a little bit later, but burn 2 loaves if you can on Pentecost on the 16th. Okay. Anyways, so C's. They shall be of fine flour and shall be baken with leaven. Okay, did someone want to say something?
Yeah. So you mentioned the scriptures
Yeah, yeah.
earlier, and that for this, instead of the meat, it does say loaves of bread
Oh, it does say.
for 17.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go. And that's a nice
16,
addition
17.
from Messianic Jews. Okay. So they're saying the same thing I just said. So thank you, Zach.
Mhm.
So, and one thing I do want to bring out, this focus of this stanza here, or the two C's, and the focus of chiasms are the middle, the highest level, and it's because it's the focus of it. This is what they really want to focus on, and here is of fine flour and baked with leaven. So I think this gets into one thing, that leaven is not always a bad thing, like some people will teach. Because here is something in the law telling us to use leaven. Now, if leaven always had bad meanings to it, he wouldn't be telling us to use it. In something that represents, and this actually represents the law, the word of God, right?
By the way, one of the most delicious things brought to us from Jewish cuisine is challah bread, which is leaven.
Yep. That's a common one for them to use on the Sabbath, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And they like to braid. So if you need to practice braiding hair, go make some bread. Anyways. So,
No, I think Dorshan has made some challah bread before.
I've bought some. I've never made it.
I will tell you, mine was terrible, but my daughter's turned out amazing.
Are you
So I
talking looks
was
or
beat by a
taste?
10-year-old. So
Are you talking looks or taste?
probably both.
Oh, all right. So, just looking at the second B within the B, they are the first fruits unto Yahweh. And now it's interesting, it's plural and it's calling first fruits. And then here you go look at the other B, it's talking about the two breads that we are supposed to wave.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this teaching us about something with
Well,
regards to resurrections, first and second?
Yeah, actually it is. Since you're bringing that up, you want to talk some more about it since you brought it up?
Okay. Well, this is actually in reference to Paul's writings in I believe
Yeah.
it was Thessalonians.
Corinthians. I think you're meaning the
Corinthians.
Corinthians one.
Yeah, where he's
There it is.
good question. We'll get to it in a second. We want to go into here. For as in Adam, all 1 Corinthians 15:22-28, for as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive, but every man in his own order. Christ,
Or
first,
I think the better translation there is the anointed.
the anointed. Yeah, this is not actually when you look at it in its original wording in context, this is not actually referring to Yeshua, but rather those who are Yeshua's.
Or the actual word, the Greek word in this is the anointed. And
Yeah.
and I mean I'll put the article here.
And it's not but it's not spoke. It's not it's not that I believe I believe it's a slightly different variation on the word that produces the uppercase Christ.
Right. So if I remember the article right, it's when it's actually Christ, they have the definitive article beforehand. Where in this case it's not definitive before, and that's why it's
So this
anointed
is
rather
talking
than
about
the anointed. But
so this is talking about the first resurrection, those who are Christ's.
right.
But every man in his own order. Christ's, the first fruits, afterward they that are Christ's at his coming, those who are terrestrial.
Now,
Then
so the hint here is that these ones have to do with the wheat, the telestial.
they
Now,
have to be beaten.
right. And that's actually the fruit, or I shouldn't say fruit, the grain that's being harvested at the time of Pentecost is wheat, because those are supposed to be wheat bread, not barley bread.
Yep, barley is separated by no more than can be separated from its plant by no more than a wind.
which represents Torah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you want to go more off of that, or
Well, and so, but let's actually just go into the resurrections here. Even
Okay.
so in Christ shall all be made alive, but every man in his own order. Christ's, the first fruits. In other words, those who followed Torah willingly. Afterward, they that are Christ's at his coming, those who had to kind of get beaten into it a little bit. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to Elohim, even the Father, when he shall have put down all rule and authority and power, for he must reign, till he hath put all enemies under his feet. That's the grapes. And the grapes, the wine and wine was traditionally stomped out of the grapes.
right? And that's traditionally tabernacles, the third feast time. But anyway,
Yep.
we'll get there in a minute.
And so that, yes, that is that. Yeah, that's
But
around the time.
grapes have to be crushed and stepped on, which when you go learn about the third resurrection, that's a description of what those in the third resurrection have to be done to. They have to be crushed and
Yep.
beaten. So
And the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. For he hath put all things under his feet. But when he saith all things are put under him, it is manifest that he is accepted, which did put all things under him. So I think that it's important here, as we're looking at this chiasm on Shavuot, to realize that even as he's teaching them, and even as he's giving them this information on this high holiday, he's actually teaching this information right here about the three resurrections.
yes, I would agree with that, because first fruits has to do with resurrections, and we go back to here, it's making a big deal about the first fruits of that particular crop, right?
Yep.
Which goes with resurrections. As we can see there, that Paul's using first fruits as allusions to resurrection. Okay.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat.
So I do not consider resurrection an ordinance. For one, it's going to happen to everybody that came to this earth. Okay. And ordinances are something that you do that's special, that you're showing you're putting dedication towards Yahweh. And Book of Mormon and Bible both make clear, and DNC make clear it's the good and the evil who are resurrected. And the evil is not going to do an ordinance to set them sides apart to do dedication to God. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sunday
So
school
the
class.
reason that this question is coming up for those who are in the restoration is because of Brighamite temples. In the Brighamite temple, they do make resurrection an ordinance that you get from your husband. Okay. But that is of the occult that they get from Masonry, of how they raise Hiram Abiff, which is an ordinance in Masonic thought.
And
the
the Masons got that. The Masons got this idea from the Priory of Sion.
Oh, is that where I don't know more.
Yeah, well, they got it from the Knights Templar, who got it from the Priory of Sion.
Okay. I'll believe you on that, and that would make sense, because it's not. I know it's not a new idea. I just don't know more history past Masonic stuff.
Yeah, well,
but-
product of a misspent youth.
It's an ordinance for them because they think they do the resurrection. No, we don't have the power over death. The only one that has power over death, physical and spiritual, is Yeshua.
Yeah.
You cannot raise yourself from the dead because you're not perfect. I don't know about you guys, but I know I have sinned. And because of my sin, I deserve death. The only reason Yeshua has the power to break the bands of death is because he was sinless. He did not deserve to die. That's the only reason he has the power over that. Well, I don't know about the only reason, but that is, I shouldn't say only.
It's one of the big. It's
one of the main reasons why he has power over death, is because he did not deserve death. Okay. I do think another part is because he's the head of everyone that came here on earth, right? So there's multiple reasons, and I said it wrong. I caught myself.
But I do believe that is a major. I agree that is a major cause, a major source of the power over death is the fact that he did not sin and did not deserve to die. And
Right.
I agree with that principle. Yeah. So
Yeah, okay. Is that good? Well, I'm assuming so. It's not put anything.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's do the last A of the B, and you shall offer with the bread. So, so here in the first A is talking about the bread offering, and here on the second A is talking about you shall offer with the bread. So here is a simpler example where you can see how these chiasms were the same stanzas. In this case, they're supportive of each other, okay? And they're teaching the same thing in a different way.
Well, and it's you're building up to the central portion of the central point here.
Yeah. And this is one way that the Hebrews knew what the most important part was, right? Is this poetry, the center. But it's also another way, a fun way, I think anyways, to give deeper insights, because this is where you have to be more watchful to see how this part is giving more insights to this part. And this is why I like bringing out the structures, because then it's pretty obvious after it's brought out that these two go together. And sometimes the same stanzas are opposite of each other. They don't always support each other. Sometimes they contradict. I shouldn't say contradict. They on the opposite spectrums of things. Like one's good and one's evil on the same thing, and showing how teaching more how to discern good from evil, for example.
Yes,
right?
It's showing something by showing its opposite.
Yes. Because knowing the opposite can help us detect what's true. I do believe the focus should be on the truth, but also being aware of your enemy is helpful to know how to protect the truth, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ben, you want to read the second B?
And the priest shall wave them with the 2 bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord, with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priest. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priest. Now, here's the thing. My brother had a really great insight about 2.
Okay, yeah. So let me read
about
that.
the importance of 2.
Yeah. So there's
Now,
deeper meanings in
unfortunately,
these
he can't
numbers.
be here. He can't be here to bring it out, but
Yeah.
we'll bring it out for him.
Yeah. Because we were just chatting a little bit before we started recording, and so that's normal for us. But anyways, so he asked, what does 2 mean, right? And I think that was a good question, because I hadn't really thought about thinking about that in this case. But let's read one list of definitions of 2, because different people have slightly different ones, but there's a lot of similarities. But there's one that really comes out that I'll point out when I get to it. There's difference, good or evil, because of the 2, good or evil. There's either
which actually reflects
which
actually is sometimes reflected in the chiastic patterns.
Yeah. Because there's the 2 kingdoms, right? The Lamb or Satan, division. And that's what happens when there's 2, there can be division. But here's the one that I find even more important. In fact, I think it's the key one in this case, living word. And so
what proceeded forth from Yahweh at both Sinai and the upper room on Shavuot.
Pentecost. Yeah, they're both Pentecost Shavuot.
The
living word.
The living breath.
Yeah. And so just to clarify, the breath would be wind in Hebrew underneath it, and wind is symbolic of Yahweh's ways, which is defined in the word.
The interesting thing is that the word ruach actually has several different meanings. One of them is spirit.
Yeah.
One other is breath or wind.
Exactly, which brings us back to Yeshua and Nicodemus. I don't
which
know if you want to sidetrack
which
on
also which also brings up a really interesting correlation with what God did to give Adam life. He breathed into him the breath of life. Torah was there with us in the beginning, the breath of life.
Yeah. So, and what Ben's getting at is how there's deeper meanings in the garden account with Adam and Eve.
Now that is a good example of partes.
Exactly. So just to bring out a little more what Ben is saying, Yeshua took Adam from the dust and made him in his image from the dust. Now, I do believe there is a deeper meaning that's more important there, is that Yahweh will take us out of Satan's domain, which is dust, and make us in his image by putting his breath, his Torah ways into us and make us a new person. That is the more important teaching from that history allegory. Okay.
Amen. Amen.
And actually, FYI, that's at the last, that is brought out in Lectures on Faith 5, of the last part of verse 2, which is probably the longest verse of scripture. But anyways,
Known to man.
yeah,
period.
that's a pretty long verse. They probably should have broke it up more. But anyways, that's a minor thing.
Let's not let's not criticize too much. How many verses of scripture have we written?
Yeah. Anyways, it's just kind of funny to me. It's so long. But anyways, but the important thing is what it teaches, right? And here's an example from Lectures on Faith that is teaching what Ben is bringing out, that we need to become and made in Yahweh's image, which is defined in Yahweh's law, Torah. Okay. So I do think that 2 is very important definition of the word, and I think that was great. Now I'm going to read some of the others. Okay. To come alongside. And how do we walk along the side of Yeshua? We keep his law, right? And
we walk in his footsteps.
We walk in his footsteps for help. Oh, wait, the law helps us to become like Yahweh. To come along, to hinder. So those who don't believe in Torah, or maybe not that they don't believe it, but they don't like it, they do find Torah a hindrance, right? To hold them back.
For those who do not keep it, not keeping Torah hinders the work of the Father.
Yeah, it does. And it will hinder them in the next life, because they will receive their glory depending upon their works, and works defined by Torah. Because how do you define sin? It's the breaking of the law, which is Torah, which is eternal. But anyways, so also I find it some other things to bring out is that they're connecting. So the bees and the bees are both talking about bread here, right? Okay, so it's also here. I'll just kind of do some highlighting. There's a couple 2s here. Now, some of them are in my glyphs and notes, and some of them are just there, right? But so in both bees, there are 2s that are actually specifically in the word. The 2 wave loaves of 2 tenths, and then also this other bee is 2 lambs. Okay, and I think this brings out a couple of things. Yahweh stated that his flesh is the word of God, right?
Yes.
And bread represents the word of God.
Yes.
And here's these 2 lambs. So
this is so I find it really interesting how the entire sacrifice points to the seminal purpose for this day, which is the law, the word of God.
Right.
To celebrate the word of God.
The 2 has to do with the 2 ways, right? Which Torah helps define. But one thing I did want to say just real quick is with the 2 lambs, I do believe that the two lambs points us to the two lambs from the law of Moses, which
Yes.
points us to Yeshua's sacrifice.
And I think that's kind of what I was getting at earlier in our earlier conversation, though I think I said it clumsily.
Okay, sure. And it's sometimes it's hard to say it on the spot like we are here, right? FYI, we do this on the spot all the time. So, all right. She says sorry for leaving. Anyways, okay.
That's okay.
She's going to try to come back.
Yeah.
But so I do believe that this two is actually two breads and two lambs are pointing to Yeshua and his flesh that
Amen.
he gave for us. Because as we'll see in a minute here, there's actually 7 lambs that is for this day. In fact, I'll just highlight it real quick. 7.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I see
But
it now.
I do think they're bringing out 2 in this case right now to bring out who we're supposed to look towards and who to become like Yeshua, right? Because the law teaches us how to become like Yeshua. And
Yes.
so they're putting, in my opinion, they're putting little hints and clues that who this is pointing to.
Yeah, hints and clues as to who it's pointing to, but also it's tying it all together. You know, it's tying the just like the law itself points to Yeshua and how we can be like him. It's everything points, everything about this holiday points back to Yeshua.
That I would say it's not a way to be like him, it's the only way to be like him.
Good point.
I'm just-
I accept the correction.
No, I'm just putting more emphasis on what you said there, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Well, yeah, actually, what you said actually brings it more into the realm of truth as opposed to being kind of there, kind of not.
Yeah, that's fine. I do think it's what you meant to say, but you know, sometimes when we do these we stumble on our words a little bit, right? So
Yeah, pretty much.
anyways. So Zach, you want to read the 7? I mean, sorry. Speaking of stumbling a little bit, you want to read the C's?
We cannot hear you. You are on mute.
Oops.
Talk about stumbling. Sorry.
7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and one young bullock, and 2 rams.
So in addition to the bread, which I do believe we as individuals can do, there are here some animals that need to be sacrificed, and that needs to be done by the Levites. Okay.
Now, I do believe that the bullock is representative of Israel.
You're going in and out a little bit, so maybe.
Okay. The bullock is representative of Israel itself, I believe.
I don't know. I haven't put much thought into that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it would be. I think it's a very important. I think it's kind of important to know what each thing represents, because the bullock is also associated with the sin offering.
Oh, okay.
And the bullocks are also associated with sin offerings and peace offerings.
Yes, I would agree. It's good to know more how these things are pointing so as to better understand. And that does make some sense when you bring out those other sacrifices. That's just not one that's not a part I haven't put time into yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that you brought that out. So also I'll just say that 7 has to do with complete, right? And that's tied to the Lamb. And who's complete?
Yes.
The Lamb of God is complete, right?
But all of this is the stuff related to all of these 7 lambs, 1 young bullock, 2 rams. That's the Levite peace offering right there.
Right. You know, I just had a thought. So lambs are rams and rams are lambs. So I wonder, this just came to me. So who knows? I'm just on the spot. I wonder if the 2 has to do with that's referenced later down in the other B, right? Maybe it has to do with the rams.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
I think that it's really important to go into this because we're here at this part of the offering, we're talking about making peace with the Lord for our sins.
Right. Yeah. So Zach, you want to read the second C?
And he then he shall sacrifice one kid of the goats for a sin offering, and two lambs of the first year for sacrifice of peace offerings.
See, and so that again ties it all together. The peace offering. See, it's talking about the peace offering of that day.
Peace offering in the first C, peace offering in the second C. And keeping the law does give us peace, right?
Keeping the law is the acceptable sacrifice.
Exactly.
It is the acceptable sacrifice. It is our peace offering with YHWH.
And in the New Testament, when Yeshua, I'm sorry, don't remember exactly where, but we can find it. But when Yeshua was talking to the apostles / disciples, right? And he said, if you keep the law, you will then, or when the Holy Ghost, aka the law, is with you, you will then have peace, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so here's this ceremony, ordinance, that's dealing with the Holy Ghost, and we're getting this peace, right? Which is part of it.
And why? Because our burnt offering unto the Lord is sweet savor. Oh, this is reference to the baptism of fire.
What? No, that couldn't be. I mean, that's
They didn't believe in that kind of. They didn't believe in that kind of stuff in Israel.
I thought it was new stuff then, not renewed stuff. It was new, right? Because the law to love your neighbor was new, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Or what? Let's check a minute. Was that new? I don't know. Let's check. Oh wait, love your neighbors in the Old Testament in Torah. Oh, dang it. It's renewing. Yeah, you're right, Ben. It is renewing.
Yeah. The baptism of fire has been around as long as the earth has, and no, the Israelites didn't get penalized and have it removed just because they asked Moses to go up on the mountain.
Well, so that's another issue, but there was some stuff removed. But anyways.
Well, there was some stuff removed, but there were people who received it.
Yes,
anyway.
there were always still people who received it.
Those who have sought have found.
Right.
Those who have asked have received, and those who have knocked, the way has been opened.
So since you bring that up, let's just say there's a key thing in here, and even Joseph Smith brings out, it's the General Assembly. In fact, let me see if I'm going to pause for a minute. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find that specific quote where Joseph Smith said it was to the General Assembly it was taken away, not all. Okay. Okay, so I found the one that we're looking for. Do you want to read it, Ben?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so this the importance of this is reveals why the offerings for the sweet savor unto the Lord. It's in symbolism. It's what telling the people. It's pointing the people to what is possible. It should be remarked, however, that while the Lord took Moses out of the midst of ancient Israel and the holy Melchizedek priesthood also, Israel as an institution, as an organization, it is evident that subsequently special dispensations of that priesthood were given to individual prophets such as Samuel, Nathan, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, for these men exercised powers and enjoyed privileges which belong exclusively to the Melchizedek priesthood. So the point stands that
people still get it. It was just to the general membership that it was not given anymore, because the general membership was not interested in being sanctified by the law.
And so my point is this, is that it is possible even when you're under a group condemnation to come out of it by obedience to the laws and ordinances of the gospel and every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God, so that you too can receive the blessings of all of the fathers, and uh, all powers and privileges to which they were to which they enjoyed.
Right. And I do think to bring out here, and this is how I saw it before I read this from Joseph Smith, is that the miracles that these prophets performed in carrying, I would add Joshua here too, but
Yeah.
anyways, this is just a beginning list, not a full list.
I don't believe that it's meant to be comprehensive.
No,
I do believe that I do believe that there may well have been individuals who weren't necessarily famous prophets with books in the Bible.
Well, I do believe we don't have all the books that in the Bible that were there originally.
Well,
so,
I think there's plenty of evidence to that.
yeah, yes. But whether if they have a book or not, that's not the important thing. The important thing is they kept Yahweh's ways, and they were given sealing powers and powers over the elements of earth, so that they could help other people, right?
Yes.
Um,
That was the purpose for which they were given these powers. When these powers are only given to people who are of God's heart and mind, which is why absolute essential it's absolutely essential to seek sanctification by walking in the path of Yeshua.
right. The people that got that were people who were sanctified. Okay. Anyways, okay.
And to reiterate something that I said, I think when the recording was paused, which I think is a very important point. Throughout all of time, all of the priesthood blessings have been available to those as would seek, ask, and knock.
Yes. God is, for those who are diligent, he always makes a way, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go back. Oops, if I could type right.
One of the, and I do believe that that's really the very important thing of why continually all these offerings are talking about a burnt offering for the Lord, sweet savor unto the Lord.
Right.
That
It's-
offering, the offering of the broken heart, contrite spirit gives us that sweet savor.
Yes. I do believe that, as Ben already pointed out, this points to the baptism of fire, right?
Mhm.
So, anyways, so I forget who read last. Sorry. Was it you, Zach? Oh well, you want to read both these, Zach? You're muted.
These. It
Yeah.
shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, of a sweet savor unto Yahweh.
There we are.
Both these point to the same thing there, right?
They shall be a burnt offering unto Yahweh, sweet savor unto Yahweh.
And that's
The offering.
those burnt
And-
offerings.
And then you have to correlate that to 3 Nephi 9:20, or 9:17 through 20, which tells us that the offering at this time, given that there are no Levites per se that are worthy or have that priesthood anymore.
Right.
The acceptable offering is the broken heart and contrite spirit. So I would say
that's always been an offering that he wanted, right?
yeah, that's always been the offering that he wanted. And this offering is just symbolic of that.
Yeah. So, oh look, it's in Torah. So thou shalt remember all the ways which Yahweh thy Elohim led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee, to prove thee, to know that thou was in thine heart. Oh wait, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou shalt keep his commandments or not. Thou shalt also consider thine heart as a man chasteneth his son, so that Yahweh thy Elohim chasteneth thee. Curses. Oh, okay. So that was not the best examples. So I'm gonna
But-
pause it for a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, I'm having a hard time finding the exact one I wanted from my notes, but here's one, at least from the Old Testament in Psalms. Okay. Showing it's not a new thing. It's a very old thing. Okay. But Psalms 34:18. You want to read that one, Ben?
The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, saveth such as be of a contrite spirit.
Okay. And I mean, Nephi got it from the Old Testament when he was teaching this.
And here's another interesting one. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. And this is actually a reference. This is actually a reference to the Messiah. The Lord delivereth him out of Yahweh delivers Yeshua from his many afflictions. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. This is all messianic reference.
Yeah.
However, but that verse 18 is definitely one that's applicable to all. The Lord
Right.
is nigh unto them that are of broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit.
You know, since you brought up the bones, I do want to say that bones are symbolic of law. Now, on the surface level, Yahweh did not have any of his bones broken, right? In fact, that's why his side was pierced, so that way his bones would not have been broken. But that also shows Yeshua did not break any laws because
Yep.
none of the bones were broken.
But this is an interesting thing. Doesn't the grace of God cover our past sins, mend our broken bones?
Do you
Many
mean
are the
mercy or
afflictions
grace?
of
Did you
his
mean
mercy. Yes,
Right?
his mercy. Doesn't his mercy mend our broken bones? Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but Yahweh delivereth him out of them all. He keepeth all his bones.
Yeah, actually,
So
the
from
mercy.
the point of mercy, we can keep the law.
Right.
It says it right here.
And we can keep it perfectly as he commanded us to do, right?
It says it right here in Psalm 34.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any sense that that's only a reference, that we suddenly jump from talking about every man to only talking about Yeshua.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because there's nothing that really
There's no
changes.
segue. There's no, and speaking of airline movies in there.
Sure. Sure. So, but yeah, I agree. It is, and we've gone over this before. If nothing else, it's a sermon in the mount. He tells us to be perfect, right? And that
Yep.
can only be done by keeping his law perfectly. And
And
Yahweh doesn't command us anything that he cannot have us do or won't help us do, right?
yep,
He'll provide a way for us to do.
yep.
Okay. So let's go back.
And that was pretty cool to
Oh,
have that realization in that moment.
Just so you know, guys, this is a really good study session.
we're
I'm
glad.
picking up a lot, I think.
Well, we're glad to hear that, Andrew.
Welcome to the high holidays. They teach the gospel.
Yes. They
So,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me read E. So this is the focus, right? Because it's the pinnacle.
mhm.
With their bread offering and their drink offerings. Now, this is wine, the drink offering.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna put that in. Which
Also meaning for atonement.
yeah, an offering made by fire. It sounds like the baptism of fire, and again, right?
Yep.
And wine
Oh,
points us to what? The joy of the atonement, right? Both parts of that. And bread is the law. And that we need the law and the atonement to have the baptism of fire, because the baptism of fire makes it so that we're justified by the law because of
Of the
Yeshua's atonement, right?
this is so Awesome.
That I mean, just that little part right there is Doctrine of Christ, right? Well, a portion of it,
entire
anyways,
Doctrine
not all
of
of it,
Christ.
but
It's the
yeah.
it's the entire doctrine of Christ in less than a verse.
Yeah.
In Torah.
Yeah, it's nothing new. It's
Even in
just,
what even in what the ignoramuses would limit Torah to.
well, people don't want to be told what to do. They want to make God in their own image. Just like, what is it? That one's D&C 88. I think it talks about justification and sanctification, right? Though I think they use a different word than justification in that section. But it's a word that means the same thing. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Do you?
Which section are we talking about? I'm
88.
sorry.
Here. Let's go find it.
I was kind of coasting on emotion and kind of lost the track.
No, that's
Stop the recording. Stop the recording.
no, let's see. So, I think it's DNC 88.
88. Yes.
Preserve.
Preserve.
Okay. Preserve,
Yes.
but that has the same meaning as justified as we can
Yes.
see here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I highly recommend this post, but I might be biased because I wrote it. Anyways, I do though. But look, let's just look at preserved since we're doing this. To keep or save from injury or destruction, right? Defend from evil, to uphold, to sustain, to save from decay, to keep in sound state, to preserve fruit in winter. Salt is used to preserve meat, to season with sugar or other substances for preservation, as to preserve plums. Quinces? Did I say that right?
Yes, quinces.
Quinces or other fruit, to keep or defend from corruption, as to preserve youth from vice. So now let's read.
Quinces are kind of like pears. They're kind of like pears.
Oh, okay. All right. You want to read justification?
Okay. The act of justify, the showing to be just or conformable to law, rectitude or propriety, vindication, defense. The court listened to the evidence and arguments in justification of the prisoner's conduct. Our disobedience to God's commands admits no justification. Also, absolution. 3, in law, the showing of a sufficient reason in court why a defendant did what he is called to answer. Pleas and justification set forth some special matter. 4, in theology, a remission of sin, an absolution from guilt and punishment, or an act of free grace by which God pardons the sinner and accepts him as righteous on account of the atonement of Christ. Or in other words, where God keeps and defends him from corruption.
Exactly. And so these two go in this context of D&C 88, 34 through 35 is basically the same thing. Right?
Yep. And again, verily I say unto you, that which is governed by law, that law is Torah, is also preserved or justified by Torah, and is perfected and sanctified by Torah. That which breaketh Torah, and abideth not by Torah, but seeketh to become a law unto itself, and willeth to abide in sin, and altogether abideth in sin, cannot be sanctified by Torah, neither by mercy, justice, nor judgment. Therefore, they must remain filthy still.
So, I think that's pretty clear to me, but I do hope having the glyphs and the definitions help it make more clear. But anyways, that's why I put those there. So let's go back to the verse. I do understand. We read the verse in a funny order, right? But I did that on purpose to show the points that go together and how they work together, to bring more clarity out. And maybe I'll just read it straight through just once real quick, okay?
Yeah.
So that way we say we did it that way, right? It's not that that matters, but Leviticus 23:15 through 21. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought forth the sheaf of the wave offering, aka first fruits after Passover, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Yea, unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath you shall number 50 days. So 50 days after the 7 Sabbaths complete. And ye shall offer a new bread offering unto Yahweh, and ye shall bring out your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals, and they shall be of fine flour, not your shabby stuff, the nice stuff, right? They shall be bacon. That sounds like bacon. Sorry, bacon with sorry, I shouldn't have said
It's
that.
the law, dang it.
They are the first fruits unto Yahweh. So I think we forgot to mention this, but you can not partake of your wheat harvest until after you do this bread offering, because it's the first that has to be used is used for Yahweh. Okay, because we
Okay.
are to put
So
him.
Matt, we need to burn the bread early in the morning.
He shall,
So we can eat bread afterwards.
well, you can eat old bread. It's the new bread that you have to worry about.
Okay. So we can't make any bread right before. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, and ye shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year. And that first year points to Yahweh, because a lamb's prime of his life is 1 year. Yeshua died at the prime of his life at 33 and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
These things point to Yeshua a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Some I haven't figured out yet. Some I have. Okay. And 2 young bullocks and 2 rams, and they shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, with their bread offering and their wine offering, even made by fire. Now, I just want to bring out the keeping the law will give you God's joy, and that is, or be forgiven, and that is the baptism of fire. Right. Anyways, of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin
Okay,
offering.
I think this kid of the goats is actually a foreshadowing of Day of Atonement offering.
I would agree with that.
Bring in the
Yeah,
two gate-
we
bring in
didn't
the-
talk about that yet, so it's good that you brought that up. I would
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. Because that goes along with the atonement, right? I mean, Passover and that one does too, but anyways.
Mhm.
And you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And Yahweh wants to give us peace, but we have to do our part in keeping the law, which is what this holiday is about, right?
Yes.
Hold on. Let me pause. Okay. Okay. And the priest shall wave them the 2 breads, the bread, which is 2 breads of the first fruits, for a wave offering before Yahweh with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy unto Yahweh for the priest, and ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall do no servile work therein. So this is a day that you should not work. Okay.
Yes.
And so if it lands on the 6th day in some years, and in some years on today's alternating moon cycle, take the day off from work. If it's on the Sabbath, like it is this year, you don't have to take an extra day off. Anyways, and it shall be a statute forever, and forever means never ending. It's like the never ending story. Sorry. Anyway, it just do it forever, right? Or and I will say I do believe we'll be doing this ordinance in heaven. Okay. I do believe forever literally means forever. We'll be doing this in heaven with all your dwellings throughout your generations. In fact,
So I think maybe I do think that maybe throughout your generations does have a meaning for Israel and also for the broader Israel, the Gentiles adopted in.
right, because it was a mixed multitude that was there, right, at Mount Sinai. And later, I mean, I do believe that the miracles that Yahweh performed through Moses converted people, right?
Mhm.
Now, the question is not what converts you. The question is if you stay converted and endure to the end and become more converted as time goes on.
Yeah. As if you actually, the question is, will you actually believe enough to forsake your sins?
Exactly. And that's where sanctification comes into play, right? So I think, do you want to bring something out? Because the next, maybe we talk about some of the different times that it's happened and some aspects that goes along with
Some
that.
of the, yeah, some of the ways that what I would like to show at this time is that this is an appointed time for Yahweh. Grand and glorious things have happened with regards to his work and his plan throughout the history of the world on this day.
Right. Okay. So where do you want me to go?
Let us first go to Exodus chapter 19.
Okay.
This is the first Shavuot. And what was done to prepare for Shavuot? Let's go into that.
So
The
maybe
third-
while we're here, I'll just bring up a little tidbit real quick. Since we're on Exodus 19, and just to kind of it starts with verse 1 and 2. Let me steal it back for a little bit, then I'll give it back to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here's an interesting little tidbit. So this deals with the two counts issue, the count of 7 Sabbaths complete and 50 days. Now, if most people are in the camp, but there's just 7 weeks. Okay. Now, if you go look at the calendar of 7 weeks, let me go get the picture. 7 weeks after Passover, right? Or
Yeah.
first, which actually technically it's just those kind of holidays go together, right? But anyways,
Okay.
is it this one? Hopefully I got the right picture. Yeah, okay. So I forgot to look up when they do it, but if you did it, and we won't do the 7 Sabbaths complete, but here's the Sabbath after, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So if you look carefully, that's just, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th day of the 3rd moon, right?
Yeah. Actually, no, no, this is the first moon. So that would be the
No, so this 22 in March is the first.
oh yeah, that's right. That's
The
15.
20th in the April is the 2nd moon. The 20th in May.
Oh yes, yes.
moon,
Yes, you're right. 5th of the 3rd
right?
moon.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a little. I don't have a view where it does the whole.
It's actually getting to the point where it's hard for me to think in Gregorian.
Oh, that's a good sign. So I guess you use the lunar solar view then.
Yeah.
I still use the Gregorian one because it's the world I live in for work and stuff. But anyways, the 24th or roundabouts is when most people did Pentecost Shavuot on the 5th or so of the 3rd moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fair, right? I counted it out correctly how they do it, right? You can maybe go up to the 12th, giving 1 week leeway, okay? And a week is a lot of leeway for this, okay? So we'll just say maybe up to the 12th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go back here.
Where were they on the
Where were they at that point, right? Because this is an actual appointed day, right? And we'll get into that. And Aaron says that, and we'll get that in a minute. But so when Exodus 19 happens, they arrived in the 3rd moon. Okay, so same moon, right? But what day? When the children of Israel were gone out of Egypt the same day. Oh, what day did they go out Egypt?
Oh, 15.
The 15th. I mean, and we can read this verse here that proves this, but they went out on the 15th into the wilderness. So let's sidetrack. Numbers 33, 3 through 6. And they departed from Ramses in the 1st month on the 15th day of the 1st month. Now, I think that's enough, but for those who want to throw in the wilderness, okay, let's keep reading. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out on a high hand on the sight of all the Egyptians, for the Egyptians buried all their firstborns, which was Yahweh had smitten among them, which will happen again, unto their false gods. Also, Yahweh executed judgment. All the children of Israel removed from Ramses and pitched in Sukkot, and they departed from Sukkot and departed, pitched in Etam, which was in the edge of the wilderness. That's the 15th. So whether if you want to try to wiggle your way with the wilderness is not, if you read enough of Numbers 33, you'll get it was the 15th. Okay.
Yeah.
So they children of Israel had
That's
not
only
even
when they came into the wilderness of Sinai. That's not necessarily when they were pitched in around Sinai, the mountain.
right. They have not even arrived at Sinai yet, when most people are celebrating the event that happened at Sinai.
Yeah.
And to go further with this, in Exodus, a couple chapters later, which deals with the same event, because there's a lot of stuff that happened that goes along with this, right? Not to demean it, but it's not my focus right now. But Exodus 32:5, and when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said to the morrow, a feast. And you go look at the Hebrew behind that's chag. I probably
Yes. Yeah.
chag.
Chag.
Chag. To Yahweh. Now let's go look at chag.
Oh, a festival gathering, feast, pilgrim feast.
Oh wait, that's one of those 3 feasts that you were supposed to go gather together on. Wait a minute.
Which one? Which one? It cannot be unleavened bread, because that's already passed.
That's past. That was in the first moon, right? And we're in the third moon here.
It has to be Shavuot.
Shavuot. Okay. Oh, in fact, we should probably say this. Maybe we should have said it at the beginning, but oh well. We're doing this off the cuff. Pentecost means 50. So the Gentiles name it by the 50 count. Shavuot actually means weeks, aka the 7 Sabbaths complete. The Hebrews use the name other part of the count, or the first count as the name.
So technically, Pentecost Shavuot would necessarily be the correct and complete name.
Naming. Yeah, I do it, but just to satisfy the Hebrew way of saying it and the Greek way of saying it. But you're right, because there's the 2 counts.
It's also technically complete. It's also technically complete because of the 2 counts.
You couldn't be referring to Sabbaths complete there, could you?
Oh, did I just make another reference to completed Sabbaths?
Yeah. Anyways,
is Sabbaths a big thing to me?
Yeah, it's a big thing to Yahweh, aka the sign. Anyways, okay.
Yeah.
So just so that people know, because Yahweh was angry with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because they did it on the wrong day. It was because of their wickedness. And so let's go read that. You want to read Exodus 32:7?
And the Lord said unto Moses, go get thee down, for thy people, he's no longer calling them his people, thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and sacrificed thereunto. By the way, the molten calf is a symbol of Baal. And said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So what they're saying is that the gods who enslaved them are the same gods that brought them out.
Yeah, well, and see, this is what Yahweh is angry about, is that not because Aaron did it on the wrong day, but because of their wickedness and how they were worshiping a false god on his high holiday.
Because they were given the seal and shat on
it. Yeah.
Sorry.
In fact, they even go as far as it was Satan that took them out, right?
That they were given the seal of God and they shat on it. They deserved to die.
So just as this is one of, and I'll do some more witnesses after Ben takes his turn for a minute, but this is one of the witnesses that shows that people are keeping Pentecost too early.
Yeah.
They were not even at the mount when most people do it, even giving a full week latitude, right?
And
They
given
weren't
the
even
fact,
at the mount.
and given the fact that in Exodus 32, which details what's going on while Moses is on the mountain, receiving the commandments, receiving the law. It was a Shavuot. It was a Pentecost.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm
Exodus
gonna
32:5. Exodus chapter 32 is excellent reference for the fact that
so
well,
F5 in your new computer, if you're not pointing the right way, you fade out a lot.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm also trying to avoid showing Matt doing his pastimes in the background.
No, that's fine. Anyways, just be careful when you're talking. So,
Yeah.
do you want me to go back to Exodus?
Yeah, let's go back to Exodus 19. I want to go over both that this is an appointed day and also what did they do to prepare.
Okay.
On the third month, when the children of Israel had gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai, for they were departed from the Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say unto the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, now I bear you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. And now we see where John gets the appellation and revelations
Mhm.
for the
Yeah,
church.
and just on that point, the more we understand Torah and the Tanakh, the better we'll understand the book of Revelation.
Exactly. Now,
Mm.
therefore, what's that? Did somebody say something?
Nothing. I bit
Okay.
myself. Sorry.
Oh, that, well, jeez. I hope you're well. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant,
You know, covenant is another word for Torah. Okay.
then exactly, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people for the earth, for all the earth is mine, and ye shall be a kingdom of priests and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded them. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So this is one of the big things, is the covenant, the renewal of the covenant, that we will do all things that the Lord has commanded. This is
And
part of preparation.
all things is a key phrase for
Mhm.
law Moses versus Torah stuff. But anyways,
Yeah, all
sidetrack
things.
is fine.
Yeah, all things is Torah.
Yeah.
All that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. The Lord said unto Moses, okay, so here they've made the covenant to do everything, to keep all the commandments. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. This is not talking about washing your clothes with soap.
No, this
This is talking
imagery-
about entering into the waters of baptism that you may be sanctified.
right.
Mm.
This is imagery for baptism here.
Mhm.
I know, I do understand it's not coming around and saying the word baptism, but when you look at what's going on, how they just took a covenant. In fact, I'm going to steal it back for just a minute, okay?
Yes.
Ben?
Go ahead.
I think you probably know where I'm going.
Yeah, I have no complaints.
Well, anyways, we are supporting each other.
Exactly.
So, this is another one of my many unfinished posts. Sorry, I'm pretty bad, but in here, this brings out how first you make a covenant with Yahweh. In fact, actually, let's go get it from, because I like some of the other verses to go with it that I don't have here. So let me change where I'm showing it from. Sorry, this is on the fly.
Matt, have you come over here real quick? So, yep.
Mormon, Mosiah, 18, and it's 9 and 10, if I remember correctly. Okay, so 9 is kind of talking about some points, not the only things you want to do, but some of the focus that Alma is bringing up for the covenant, right? And are you willing to mourn with those that mourn? Now, to mourn with those that mourn, tell them that is not telling them this concern does not matter. It means you're mourning. You understand why it's a problem for them, right? And you could probably even start crying with them. Not
Wait,
tell
more?
them it doesn't matter. It'll get over it, okay? And
Exactly.
comfort those and comfort those that stand in need of comfort. Be nice with them, help them out, right? And to stand as a witness of Elohim at all times and in all things, and in all places that you may be in, even unto death. So that's basically another way of saying it, enduring to the end, that you may be redeemed of Elohim, and be numbered with those of the first resurrection, that ye may have eternal life. So the first resurrection is pointing to celestial glory, right? Because there is a second resurrection also, and that deals with the terrestrial. But anyways, there is a reason why he brings up first resurrection. And those who think that D&C 76 is not in the Book of Mormon, here's another case of it. First resurrection, okay? And eternal life. And now I say unto you, if this is the desire of your hearts, what have you against being baptized in the name of Yahweh as a witness? Okay, a witness of something that already happened. And it's going to clarify in a minute. As a witness before him that ye have entered into a covenant. So baptism is a physical act stating that you've already entered into a covenant with Yahweh.
Yeah, notice entered, it's a past
Oh,
tense
yes, past
word.
tense. That's very good point there. That you're just helping me drill my point in even more. That entered is past tense. With him, that ye will serve Elohim and keep Elohim's Torah, that he, Elohim, may pour out his spirit more abundantly upon you. So now that more is an important word, because you can have his spirit abundantly before you were baptized.
Oh,
Otherwise, why there need to be more in that sentence? But anyways, the main thing here that I'm bringing out here is that first they made a covenant, okay? And then they went and washed their clothes,
Yes.
right? Because in the case with Moses, this is
And the
happening,
covenant is almost exactly the same as you find in Mosiah.
right? But oh yeah, actually I'm pushing the wrong buttons. Silly me. Sorry guys. Because I had to hit that button. Okay. But what happened here is that Moses did the covenant, and part of the action of them doing was spreading blood out, right? And they had to go wash their clothes, as in go in the water, because a covenant was just made. Everyone made a covenant, and then they went into the waters of baptism. So I was just bringing that out to help bring out the imagery that's going on right here. Okay.
And that is, if you go through the numbers of the children of Israel at the beginning of the book of Numbers, you'll understand how busy Moses was during those 3 days,
Yes.
baptizing all those people.
Yeah.
Maybe Aaron helped.
Anyways, you probably did have help, but that's a side
Yeah.
note. So.
Yeah, but be ready against the 3rd day. For the 3rd day, the Lord will come down on the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds on the people round about. Okay. So that nobody sanctified was allowed to come upon the nobody who was unsanctified was allowed to come upon the mountain. And Moses
So
went down from.
I just remember one thing. I want to go back just a little bit, sorry. But in washing the clothes, I do think it goes and has imagery how we need to wash our garments and take upon his garment as part of the imagery for the baptism, right? Sorry.
Yes, that too. And so they let's skip down a little bit.
Yeah.
Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. Now that's an interesting little aside there, but we'll leave that. That's a sidetrack for another time. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount.
So so to bring out another imagery here, okay, clouds have to do with judgment, and this goes along with making a covenant, baptism of water, and baptism of fire.
Yep.
Baptism of fire is a judgment to see if you have been accepted or not, right? Well, if you got the baptism of fire, you've been accepted.
Yes, and the
with a broken heart, contrite spirit. But the imagery of the clouds deal with judgment, and that is what baptism of fire is, right?
Yes. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. The smoke thereof was as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked exceedingly. Now, this whole thing about the voice of the trumpet, the thick cloud upon the mount, the voice of the trumpet, the exceeding loud, that's actually the word. One of these words, I forget where it is, but one of these words in one of these verses is actually a ruach. So that the which corresponds, and I think it's this one, the voice of the trumpet, the exceeding loud. That's the basically the ruach came upon them very loud, which corresponds to what happens in the upper room at Pentecost.
Exactly. And there's some other things that correlate. I'll wait until maybe you get to it. If not, I'll bring it up after. Okay.
Mount Sinai, well, and the fire coordinates as well, because the Lord descended upon it in fire.
Right.
And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of the furnace, the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet, when the ruach sounded long, waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount. The Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount. Moses went up. The Lord said unto Moses, go down and charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish, for they are not all sanctified.
Right.
And
so here he's calling Moses up onto the mount, right?
Yep, because he's ready.
Right. He's
prepared.
sanctified. That is the baptism of the Holy Spirit.
Yep, that's the baptism of the Holy Spirit, baptism of Torah.
So I just want to interject a little. This is the doctrine of Christ right there, Mount Sinai, right?
Yep.
Anyways.
And the facts of the matter are, the doctrine of Christ way is not the broad and wide, because the Lord tells Moses to go down and charge the people.
Right.
They're not, because they're not prepared.
Right. They were doing their own thing instead of Yahweh's way, right? So
right. So going down. So Moses is a good example of how to prepare for Shavuot. He actually sanctified himself.
Yeah.
The Lord said unto Moses, okay, and let the priests also which come near to the Lord sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And the Moses said unto the Lord, the people cannot come up into Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, set the bounds around the mount to sanctify it. The Lord said unto the way, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee, but let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down with the the people, and he spake unto them. And so, again, we're seeing that there are people who have sanctified themselves as of this point.
Right, and I find it interesting. I would say it's a few. Just as the pattern has followed through history, it's only a few that find the way in Yeshua and do his ways.
Yep. So going down just a little more,
I'm down all the way. So do you want the next
Okay.
chapter?
and then into the next chapter.
Okay.
And God spake all these words, and then we go into, and then he delivers the law unto the people. So God spake all these words.
So it
Now-
just along these lines, in Hebrew, it's not called the 10 Commandments. It's called the 10 Words.
Yep.
And this, even right here in this English translation, somewhat still shows that if you know what to look for, right? But anyways.
Right. And so this is the word of the Lord. This was how they were to continue to sanctify themselves. This is what they said they had. This is what they promised faithfully to do,
Exactly.
and this is what they
Didn't do.
and this is what they didn't do.
Which is why they got a punishment, right?
Of the law of Moses.
Yeah.
The Lord knew that they would not do it, which was why he was laying out the punishment even before chronologically the
Mhm.
crime had been committed.
Do you want me to go down? Because I don't think we need to read the 10 unless you want to.
I don't think we need to,
Okay, so
but let's pull out those things which correlate. Basically, the idea here is Moses gives us an example of how to prepare for Shavuot
yeah, sanctification.
through sanctification, baptism, entering into a covenant, witnessing with God that we have entered into that covenant, to receive the law.
So I think maybe what I'm hearing is
Now
perhaps
let's,
rebaptisms, maybe. Is that what I think
What's
I
that?
hear you saying?
what's that?
Are you suggesting rebaptisms?
Yes, let's go to rebaptisms.
Okay, hold on. I got a page on that.
The point of the point that the point to be made here is that rebaptism is a thing.
It's in the scriptures, including the Book of Mormon.
Yep.
So let me just put this here. Oh, sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons. Sorry, people.
That'll be
If I pushed your buttons, I am sorry. I didn't. But anyways, sorry. I was partly being silly and serious at the same time. But anyways, so is there a particular one you want to look at?
Let's take a look at Alma, chapter 5.
It's 5. So I can read. I'll read it to give you a little.
Go ahead and read Alma chapter 5, verse
Okay,
60.
so this is my little intro to Alma 5:62. Alma is commanding all members of the church to be rebaptized and inviting non-members to be baptized. Okay. I speak by the way of command unto you that belong to the church. So this is why I'm saying he's commanding all members, right? And unto those who do not belong to the church, I speak by way of invitation. Hence, he's inviting non-members to baptism, saying, come and be baptized unto repentance, that you also may be partakers of the fruit of the tree of life. So he's commanding members to be baptized. This is teaching rebaptism of those, and this group is actually in fairly good standing, right? I mean, they're not perfect, but they weren't excommunicated.
The people in Zarahemla had started to become lax in their covenant keeping.
Sure, but they weren't excommunicated, were they?
No, no, they weren't.
But hold on, is this in Alma 7 or Alma 15?
Alma 5. Alma 5:62.
Okay.
Alma 5 is a good one for born again chapter, but anyways, that's another subject.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, is that many of these people in this land had long been going through the motions without
Changing their heart.
changing their hearts.
Sure.
And so here he is commanding them, because what do you have to do before you're baptized? Mosiah 18.
Yeah.
You have to have covenanted
yeah,
to keep
recommit
every
to the
commandment of the
covenant.
Lord.
Right.
Yep.
Not
You have
just
to-
your favorite parts of it, all of it. Right.
Yes.
And that is a serious covenant.
And so I and so what I would encourage people who are listening to this to do is to enter into covenant with the Lord, find someone who is worthy to baptize you unto repentance, and then to take that covenant that you've made seriously enough to actually forsake your sins. Believe in the Lord's promise enough to actually forsake your sins. And then you will have prepared for Shavuot. Then you will be consecrated. Then you will be able to receive more of God's law for you, more of God's law to be revealed unto you.
So, to go along with the baptism that Ben's bringing out, I'm going to bring out some of the symbolism that's in baptism. The baptism act is very symbolic of multiple things. Okay, but there's a couple of things. You covenant to keep all the words of Yahweh, right? Not just some of it, all of it. Now, water has multiple symbolic meanings to it. One of it is revelation from Yahweh. Okay. And when you immerse into water, when you immerse something in life, in something you're studying, you're really putting yourself into it, right? You're studying a lot. You're consuming it with all your might, mind, and strength. Yeah, I'm using words to allude to something on purpose. When we immerse ourselves in Yahweh's revelation, that is what one of the symbols that comes from baptism, being immersed in water, is because you are doing an act to point to what you've promised to do. You promised to immerse yourself in Yahweh's words, and you're doing an act that shows that also. Anyways.
And so yes, and so I challenge all who will listen to this before Shavuot to take seriously your preparation for this high and holy day. To sanctify yourself before the Lord. Find somebody who is worthy and be rebaptized, that you may be partakers of the tree of life, not the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, I agree. This is good timing to do such thing.
Yeah,
especially what we just saw what Moses did, right? On preparation for this high holiday, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And if you have children, remember they don't need to be baptized till they're 8 years old. And then only if they're knowledgeable and ready.
Right,
If
right.
they're not knowledgeable
If they're not at the age of accountability, you don't need to worry about it, because then they're covered by Yeshua's grace or mercy. Sorry, bad habit, mercy.
But if you do not have them ready to be baptized as soon as by 8, the sins that they commit between the ages of 8 and whenever you have them ready to be baptized are on your head, according to the Doctrine of Covenants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this idea that we're supposed to allow children to be children and not to actually think about anything of substance or what have you is not an idea from God.
No, that's coming from the world that's following Satan. We need to start teaching our children as soon as we can.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so this is also another good way to prepare for Shavuot. Prepare your children to enter into covenant.
Yeah.
Because this is what Shavuot is all about. It's all about entering into the covenant.
Of keeping the law, right?
Keeping the law. Yep.
So if you're done with that, I have another correlation to point
Yep.
out from this event and Acts, because you
Yes.
brought out a couple while we were reading, but let me bring out some more.
Okay.
So here's an interesting one, and this is a little later that we didn't quite get reading to, right? Because it's in Exodus 32, but it's still part of the same event, okay? At Mount Sinai. And this is after Moses comes down. And the children of Levi did according to the words of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. So 3,000 men died, okay, because they broke their covenant. All right. It was a sad day. But in Acts 2, when another day of Pentecost happened after Yeshua's death and resurrection, there is also another 3,000 souls that I believe that's intentional, that they're bringing out 3,000. Okay. Because there's 5,000 people there, give or take, but it was 3,000 that converted. So let me read Acts 2:41. And they that gladly received his word were baptized. And that same day they were added unto them about 3,000 souls. So the 3,000 both point to Pentecost.
Yep.
3,000 died when they broke the law. 3,000 lived, or became new creatures when they kept it.
Yep.
Now,
That's a beautiful correlation.
yeah, and another one that's in here, as been brought out in chapter 19 for preparation for Shavuot, there's baptisms. Now look again, what just happened? Baptisms in the same verse right there.
Baptisms, the covenant honored, 3,000 souls lived.
Wow.
Baptisms, the covenant forsaken, 3,000 souls died.
Yeah. Covenant taken seriously, and 3,000 were born again, right?
Yep.
So another thing that maybe we could bring out that's from here, I think is interesting, is Moses' shining face. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want to read that one, Ben?
And it came to pass, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. And when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come nigh him. And Moses called unto them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him, and Moses talked with them. And afterward all the children of Israel came nigh, and he gave them a commandment, all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Until Moses was done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But when Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he took the veil off until he came out. And he came out and spake unto the children of Israel that which he was commanded. And the children of Israel saw the face of Moses, and the skin of Moses' face shone. And Moses put the veil upon his face again until he went in to speak with him.
So, Bryce, now, so Joseph Smith taught us to abide the Book of Mormon, right?
Yes.
So Abinadi, when he visited King Noah and the wicked priest, we know that was during Pentecost Shavuot, okay? And one of the hints that shows that is that his face shone, right? So let me pause for a minute because I need to find the verse. Okay. So Ben helped me. I was one chapter off, sorry. But here in verse 5, and it came to pass after Abinadi had spoken these words that, and these are words regarding the commandments. Okay.
Yes, he was speaking to them of the commandments, and his face shone in the same way that Moses' face shone
Yeah.
when he delivered the commandments to the people.
Abinadi was trying to bring people back to the law on the day that the law was given.
This is an appointed time. This is, and the Lord manifests himself in power and glory in his appointed times.
I see the pattern throughout the scriptures. Yahweh still uses his appointed times. It has not changed. It will continue, and it will be that way in the second coming, as we've talked about in other recordings. Okay. So on
Ammon with Lamoni, Ammon with King Lamoni. He was asleep for 3 days. On the third day, Ammon comes into him, pulls him up. That also happened on Shavuot.
Yeah. You want to bring that one out? Do you remember where
Yeah, let's go to Alma chapter 17, I think. Or maybe a little later.
Okay. Well, let's pause while we're looking, just so there's no dead time. All right. So we found it, and let Ben share.
Okay, so we're going to start in verse 39.
Do you want me to read, or you want to?
You go ahead and read.
Okay. But this is not all, for he expounded unto them the plan of redemption, which was prepared from the foundation of the world. And he also made known unto them concerning the coming of the Messiah, and the works of Yahweh did he make known unto them. And it came to pass that after he had said all these things and expounded them unto the king, that the king believed all his words. And he began to cry unto Yahweh, saying, O Yahweh, have mercy according to thy abundant mercy, which thou hast had upon the people of Nephi, have upon me and my people. And now when he said this, he fell unto the earth as if he were dead. And it came to
I just want to point out verse 41. What does he ask for? Does he ask for grace? No.
mercy.
He asks for mercy.
Yeah. There is a difference between grace and mercy. And it was appropriate for me mercy here. I sometimes say the wrong word because of bad habits. But yes, he asked for mercy. Okay.
Okay.
43 now.
Go ahead and read verse 43.
And it came to pass that his servant took him and carried him in unto his wife, and laid him unto a bed, and he lay as if he were dead for the space of 2 days and 2 nights. And his wife and his sons and his daughters mourned over him after the manner of the Lamanites, great lamenting his loss.
And go into the next chapter, because that's where we
Okay.
see the kicker. And it came to pass after 2 days and 2 nights, they were about to take his body and lay it in a sepulchre which they had made for the purpose of burying their dead. Now the queen, having heard the fame of Ammon, therefore she sent and desired that he should come in unto her. It came to pass that Ammon did as he was commanded, and went in unto the queen, and desired to know what she would that he should do. And she said unto him, the servants of my husband have made it known unto me that thou art a prophet of the holy God, that thou hast power to do many mighty works in his name. Therefore, if this is the case, I would that you should go in and see my husband. For he has been laid upon his bed for the space of 2 days and 2 nights, and some say that he is not dead, but others say that he is dead, and that he stinketh, and that he ought to be placed in the sepulchre. But as for myself, to me he doth not stink. Now this is what Ammon desired, for he knew that King Lamoni was under the power of God. He knew that the dark veil of unbelief was being cast away from his mind, and the light which did light up his mind, which was the light of the glory of God, which is the marvelous light of his goodness. Yea, this light had infused such joy into his soul, the cloud of darkness having been dispelled, that the light of everlasting life was lit up in his soul. Yea, he knew that this had overcome his natural frame, and he was carried away in God. Therefore the queen desired of him what the queen desired of him was his only desire. Therefore he went in to see the king, according as the queen had commanded, desired him. He saw the king and knew he was not dead. And he said unto the queen, he is not dead, but he sleepeth in God, and on the morrow he shall rise again. on the third day, on the ultimate day of Pentecost.
As in, to just go back how we talked about before, 3 days of, because there's the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th, right?
Uh-huh. And Ammon said unto her, Believest thou this? And she said unto him, I have no witness save thy word, and the word of our servants. Nevertheless, I believe it shall be according as thou hast said.
Very good.
And Ammon said unto her, Blessed art thou because of thy exceeding faith. I say unto thee, woman, there has not been such great faith among all the people of the Nephites. And it came to pass that she watched over the bed of her husband from that time even until that time on the morrow when Ammon appointed that he should rise. And it came to pass that he arose, according to the words of Ammon, and he arose, he stretched forth his hand unto the woman and said, Blessed be the name of God, and blessed art thou. For as sure as thou livest, behold, I have seen my Redeemer, and he shall come forth and be born of a woman, and he shall redeem all mankind who believe on his name. Now when he had said these words, his heart was swollen within him, and he sunk again with joy. And the queen also sunk down, being overpowered by the spirit of Ammon. And now everybody's sinking down to the ground of being overpowered by this, being overpowered by the
Overpowered by the spirit, right?
and but at the same time, Lamoni rises on the third day. The thing is, there's a lot of things in this story that are really, really powerful. Ammon is also a name for the sun.
Yeah.
And so the sun raises us, changes us from dead to living, and it gives us new life. And this is the celebration of Shavuot. Is that new life that we can live, and the fact that that new life is actually, they want us to know what it is. They want us to know what's involved in it. They gave us the law so that we could know how to live in that new life, how to live in that life, in that spirit.
And there's all this talk about light earlier, right? Which is
And the law is the light. The law is the light.
Yeah.
And it proceeds, and the light proceeds from the sun.
Yeah, he's the one that gives it to us. But he's the one why we can have it, right?
And so there's just so much powerful imagery here. All of this pertains to Shavuot.
I can see that.
And if you and if you don't see it, look harder. The Lord wants you to see it. That I can testify. Look harder and live the law, and you will see.
Well, you need to start studying it so you know what it is, and then also you need to study it so that way you can see it in the Book of Mormon, because it's all over the Book of Mormon. If you don't study it, guess what? You won't see it because you don't know what it is. How can you see something that you don't know what it is, right?
So another part of preparation for Shavuot, read the law that you can see. Study the law. Search it out. Begin to find
anything, at least read the 10 Commandments, right? And also think about how the 10 Commandments are applied multiple ways, right? So, because there's 2 commandments which hang all the Torah and what the prophets teach about, and that's love Elohim and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, there are 10, 5 of the 10 gives us a little more understanding how Yahweh wants us to love him, and the other 5 teach us more about how he wants us to love others. And then all the other laws hang from those 10 that are Yahweh expounding and his messengers expounding how to do those 10, which are how to do those 2.
And so that's what, at the very least, if you read nothing else, read the Ten Commandments, for they
Yep.
were given on Shavuot. Read the account of the apostles in Acts chapter 2. Find out what they experienced.
Yeah. So I think we're done with that, right?
Yep, we're done with this.
So I have a little more that goes with the timing of Pentecost that we can go over. Let's do this one. So Philo was a Jewish historian, right? Around the time of Yeshua's mortal ministry, a little after, I don't remember the exact years, but it was not long after Yeshua died that he was a Jewish historian, right?
That is awesome.
Oh, you like that? You want to read it since you just read it while I was giving a little intro on Philo? And you read it.
Immediately after Pentecost comes the festival of the sacred moon, a
So,
new moon day.
new moon day. So, if you celebrate Pentecost, say 5th to the 8th of the 3rd moon, is that close to the festival of new moon right after? In fact, is that immediately just before the celebration of new moon? No, it's not.
No, not even close.
Not even close. It's 2 to 3 weeks before, right? Even a little more. So I'm rounding down, giving some extra credit here.
Benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt. Yeah, but extra credit because we're in school right now, right? Anyways.
Yeah, extra credit. There you go.
Anyways, but immediately after Pentecost comes the festival of the new moon.
Oh, but wait a minute. That's so the Jews were keeping the lunar Sabbath?
Yeah. So let's go look at how we
Oh.
keep this. Okay, let's go back. Let's make sure hopefully I'm getting the right one. Okay, so here is you can see my mouse, right?
Yep.
14th, Passover, 15 through 21, unleavened bread, 22nd. Oh, you're already here, stay longer, right? Okay, but anyways, first Sabbath, second Sabbath complete, third Sabbath complete, fourth Sabbath complete, fifth Sabbath complete, seventh, did I count? What I start? 1, 2,
Sixth Sabbath, seventh Sabbath is the
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so look, even 7 Sabbath complete is after the 5th, right? But anyways, now if you go count 50 days, let's see, 1, 2, 3, that's 21, 22, 29, 36, 43.
There's 50 right there,
50.
29.
All right, I can count on live television. Okay, so that's good. Now, if there was the 30th right here, right?
Yep.
Like it was during Moses' time, it would have put it the 28th. You get your 3 days, and then right after that, new moon. Exactly what Philo just said. Let's go read it again since we just looked at the picture. Okay.
And at that point, the Jews hadn't lost it yet.
No, that came later. Okay. This is soon after Yeshua's death that this was written. Okay. I don't remember the exact date. Look it up.
But I'm just saying they hadn't lost it at that point.
No, they lose it later. Immediately after Pentecost Shavuot comes the festival of the new moon. And that's what we just saw on the lunar solar calendar, right?
Yep.
I do not believe that's an error. That is actually correct. Okay.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I put a little less authority on the writings of on the Dead Sea Scroll writings.
Yeah.
because
They have some.
They were practicing a solar calendar.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Their calendar was wrong. Okay. They had other things right, but their calendar was wrong. Okay. Now let's. So also on timing, looks like I put this in the wrong spot. Anyways, I need to move it down. Oh no, actually that's what I meant. I'm trying to find maybe this one. Oh no, it's this one I'm thinking of. Okay. So here are some verses that talks about the season of Pentecost. For one, in Pentecost, it's in the season of harvesting your wheat. We can go look online, but wheat is not harvest in the beginning of the third moon.
The beginning of the first moon, they're harvesting barley.
That's barley, but this is Pentecost is wheat.
No, I know.
Yeah, I'm just confirming what you're saying and pointing out that the wheat is harvested near the end of the fourth moon. Okay.
Yeah.
In addition, so in the King James, and since this brings up a controversy, this verse, so I'll read it in the King James version. Okay. Exodus 34:22, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks of first fruits of wheat harvest. Wheat harvest. When is wheat harvested? Okay. And the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Okay. So there is a false tradition that there's two calendars in the Jewish year. Okay. There's not. There's only one year, because people will say it's month 1 or month 7, depending which calendar. That's not the case. The Masoretic was the Masoretic text, Hebrew text, was modified by the unbelieving Jews to do multiple things, but one of the things that they did most is downplay the prophecies that were a lot more obvious, pointing to Yeshua and his first coming, than they are in the Masoretic text, which is what the Old Testament of most people is translated from. Okay. Where here in the Septuagint, let's go read that is, in the Septuagint is older than the oldest Masoretic text that we have. Okay. The Septuagint is older, and it was a translation of Hebrew text that later got corrupted by the Jews, as the Book of Mormon prophesies. But anyways, the Septuagint, go ahead. No, go ahead.
The question then becomes a matter of how many steps to the end product.
We're right. And anyways, that's, I agree. But I do believe that the Jews purposely modified the Masoretic. Okay. And
Yeah,
this is from
I mean, I can see they would have motive for that.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of research on that. But anyways, and in addition to what the Book of Mormon says, but is Septuagint Exodus 34:22. The first part's the same. The last part is different. And thou shalt keep to me the feast of weeks, the beginning of the wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering in the, oh, wait a minute, middle of the year, not at the end. And this actually goes along with, I think it's Alma 56, when the new year starts, and they say it's the start of the year, not the middle, right? In the spring. I think that's Alma 56, which also goes against the false tradition of the year starting in the fall that the Orthodox Pharisees push.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
But anyways, and some of that they do it off of this right here, though, right? Partly off of this bad verse, for this Septuagint edition of it, I would say, is the correct version of that. But anyways,
yeah, I mean, that's one of those places where I'd be interested to go into it, figure out which one has the least levels of.
we're right. I neither one is perfect, but anyway.
But the less opportunities they have to mess with something, the better
Right.
off.
I do.
the likely it is to be better off.
I do like the Septuagint in a lot of cases, but anyways, that's another subject. So another thing about the timing. So Acts 2, let's go to Acts 2. I guess I don't have it there, but I know what I'm going after. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you know what you wanted.
yeah, you probably know what I want because I mean the key word was there, right?
Yeah,
Um,
wine.
yeah,
These men have drunk new wine.
yeah, and it's new wine, right? It's not just wine, it's new wine. Okay. So maybe let's do a definition real quick. New wine is wine that's recently been made. Old
Right.
wine
Tends to be sweeter.
around for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
New wine tends to be sweeter.
yes, it is sweeter, but right now I'm more worried about the
Yep.
seasonal aspect of this.
Yeah, the seasonal aspect. Yeah.
Wine has just barely started to get harvest at this time. At near the end of the fourth moon, they just barely started harvesting wine, and new wine doesn't take long to ferment, like a week or two. Now, grapes are harvested from this time up to tabernacles. There's a wide range of time that grapes is harvested, okay? And it starts just before Pentecost Shavuot and ends around tabernacles, okay?
Mhm.
And so here, some people were mocking them, saying, "Oh, you're just drunk." And Peter stands up and says, they're not drunk. It's not even the middle of the day yet, right? But the key thing is new wine, meaning wine that was just barely started to be made.
Mhm.
That is not the beginning of the third moon.
No,
Near the end.
you would only have old wine at that point.
Yeah, that was old wine from last year's harvest at that.
Yep.
Okay. Which also, just on this point, I do believe that's part of the reason why in the garden Yeshua said bitter wine, because that is the time of old wine, which is bitter. Okay. And
Mhm.
now I do believe the cup he had to drink of was bitter, but I do believe he brings in the imagery of the seasons that things are currently. Okay. And there's a lot of deep meaning there, but I don't want to sidetrack on that too much. But just on the new wine and old wine, I wanted to bring that up. Okay?
Yep.
And so that is another proof that
Shavuot is
Shavuot
coming.
is near the end of the fourth moon. In fact, right immediately after it comes
It is next
day.
week. It is next week.
Yeah. So Pentecost, Shavuot is next week on the 16th. Now, give me 1 minute, okay? Okay, so this one's an interesting. And Acts, that maybe that's probably good enough. So Acts 20 through 21 is an interesting passage. So I will say up front, there's not enough to absolutely say it's not the earlier time of Pentecost. I do think there's enough in there that really highly suggests that it's not, but this is an interesting passage that has to do, it even has a mistranslation in it that's related to Pentecost, the things that we just talked about. So I do at least want to talk about that, and then maybe talk about some of the timings and why it doesn't definitively say, but I do think it leans towards the older date, okay, or the later date, sorry. So Ben, are you willing to read verse 6 there?
20.
Yeah, 26.
I see 2.
Acts 20 verse 6.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, I didn't push the buttons. Silly me. Sorry about that.
I was like, I would love to read Acts 20.
Okay, all right, there you go.
And we sailed away from Philippi after the days of unleavened bread and came unto them in Troas in 5 days, where we abode about 7 days. So here we are going into the Feast of Weeks.
Yeah. And so Acts 27. So also maybe just to kind of give a little more Pentecost. So Pentecost is after unleavened bread, right? As we talked about. But as in just to kind of nail that on the head, let's go read 16 real quick.
For Paul had determined to sail by Ephesus because he would not spend time in Asia, for he hasted, if it were possible for him, to be at Jerusalem the day of Pentecost.
Yeah, and then those are my notes. So anyways, there's one verse that specifically says that this travel he's doing is for Pentecost. Okay. All right. So now let's go look. Let's read. I'll read 7 because there are some problems with it, and I'll kind of bring it out as I'm reading it. And upon the first fact, maybe we do make. I forget how to. Oh, that's showing up. Okay. So upon the first, so let's see, upon the first. So Greek 520.
1520.
Oh yeah, sorry, 1520 means one. Okay, first. And
Mia.
see, in here they put day in glyphs because they're emitting translator bias with that glyph there. Okay.
Yep.
And now of the week. Now, so see, the word that they get week from is actually Sabbath.
Sabbathon, yeah.
Yeah, Sabbathon. Now, so I copied it so we don't have to go there, but I have the
Oh,
link
so
there.
this is on the first of the Sabbaths.
Yeah, this is the first count of the Sabbath. So this is the 22nd.
Yeah.
You can travel during unleavened bread, just
Yeah.
as the Israelites did during the Exodus, right? You can travel on that. This people use the mistranslation of this verse to justify Sunday, but that's not what it's saying. It actually is talking about the first week of the count of the complete
The
Sabbath.
first complete, and it was on the first completed Sabbath.
Yeah.
When the disciples came together to break bread, Paul preached unto them, ready to depart on the morrow, and continued his speech until midnight, because Paul, like all of us, loves the sound of his own voice.
Yes. Yeah. Look at me. I talk on forever. Right?
I think it's well past midnight now, buddy.
For you, I'm not quite there, but anyways, it depends on your time zone. For Zach, it definitely is, right? But anyways, it's a slightly different world right now, but it's past. It's getting close to midnight or past, depending on your time zone.
Yeah, but that is so. That is. I'm sorry. That
You like that?
seeing that in actuality as admitted in the
Yeah,
in the
the
media.
glyph they're omitting. That's a translator bias, and then they put week. But you go look at the Greek word behind it. It's Sabbaton, which literally means
First of the
Sabbath
Sabbath.
of
It
the
just means
week. Look at
first-
it. This is Strong's concordance there.
Yeah, it just means
fact-
first of the Sabbaths.
Yeah, this is the
Doesn't say
first
first
Sabbath
day of the
counting
week.
to Pentecost, the
It
22nd.
doesn't say the first day of the week. It says the first. That
First
pisses,
Sabbath
that
counting
pisses
to Pentecost.
that freaking pisses me off.
Well, I hopefully the part that pisses you off is the bad translation. The actual blatant
No,
translator bias.
they hid that. The
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that glyph is in there means they purposefully hid that. They
Yeah.
purposefully led everybody away into their freaking paganism, as if it
Yeah,
was
it is.
justifiable.
Yeah,
There's no word in there.
no, there's not. But
The people
as
who
far as
put-
it's
and the-
translated
And
correctly,
the translators who did that are going to burn in hell.
unless they repented. But yes, I agree with you. I highly doubt they repented. But yes, I agree. So, anyways, we could look at the rest of the verse, but the key thing about Pentecost is this count of weeks here, right?
Yep.
That's going on.
And
We showed it from the context
that
that it's
that is
after unleavened bread, and they're talking about Pentecost, right? What was it, 16?
that's the nail in the coffin for Sunday Sabbath.
Yeah. So now, let's just keep reading. I don't have it because there's multiple times in here Paul says we stayed some days, we stayed many days, we stayed for 7 days. So there's multiple times that he brings out we stayed for a while. It really makes it ambiguous, right? And in addition, he'll talk about, like here in this one, we went before to ship and sailed to Assos, were intended to take Paul, for he had appointed minding himself to go afoot. So walking takes longer, right, than sailing. And when we met with us at Assos, he took him in and came to
Mytilene.
Yeah. And we sailed hence and came the next day again over against Chios.
Chios.
The next day we arrived at Samos.
Yep, Samos.
And tarried at I'm not even going to try.
Trogyllium.
Okay. So another thing that makes this ambiguous, and I tried to find it, but I couldn't find
Great.
anything.
It's all the Greek words. Makes it
But,
really
well,
ambiguous.
yeah, but these are Greek words. But the point is, the thing that I couldn't find is how long does it take to travel from one of these cities to the next? Okay, I don't know. But anyways, that one doesn't matter too much. For Paul determined to sail by Ephesus, he would not spend time in Asia as he hate. Oh, we read that one.
When you
'cause he wants to
consider
go to
this, Mytilene, Chios, and Samos are all different islands. in
Right.
the Aegean.
So there's at least 1 day in between each one of these, okay, if not more, right?
Mhm.
I don't know, but this is where it's ambiguous, okay?
Right.
Now, but here in Acts 20:18, and when they came to him, and he said unto them, know you not the first day of the week that I came into Asia? So now if we go look through this, this has to be the second, at the earliest, this is the second day of the moon, or the first day of the week. When we go back, let's go back to our calendar. That one. Okay. So we see here the second day of the moon is always the first day of the week. Every week, every one of these, right? Every one.
Yep.
It's because the calendar in Yahweh's calendar is pretty simple. it's the same. Anyways.
Yeah, the only thing that complicates it is the number of transition days or non-trans.
Right. So I'll put so, and I'm not going to get into this one here, but others have, but this gets into an issue when you count the days that he does on travels from one to the next and the day of the week it lands on. This actually right here, along with the stuff before it, proves the lunar solar Sabbath.
Yep.
Because the only way it does not work with any combination of the Gregorian calendar. You need the lunar Sabbath calendar, and thus the lunar Sabbath, or I'm repeating myself, but you need the lunar Sabbath to make this work with the names of the days, the number of days it travels, when you start, and when he is arriving to get that first day. You need lunar Sabbath to get it to work. Okay. And I'll try to remember to put in the notes some links on this, but this is another proof, lunar solar Sabbath. Okay. But anyways, but
in fact, Paul was well aware of it and was a practitioner.
Yeah. So here, sorrowing most for their words which he spake, he could see his face no more, and accomplished him unto the ship. So I just brought this big. They're taking the ship to go to place, right? And who know, and this is where it gets ambiguous. I don't know how long each one of these travels are, but anyways, here's one that does specifically say multiple days of travel and 7 destinations. Okay, and this is after the second of the second moon, right?
Yep.
And you want to read this because I know I'm not going to be able to say those names. Well,
And it came to pass that after we had gotten from them and had launched, we came with a strict course unto Cus, and the day following unto Rhodes, and from thence unto Patara, and finding a ship sailing over into Phoenicia, we went aboard and set forth. When we had discovered Cyprus, we left it on the left hand and sailed into Syria and landed at Tyre, for there the ship was unlaid for burden.
Okay, so let's count these destinations together. 1, 2,
3,
3,
4,
5,
6,
6,
7.
7. Okay. Now, this is where it gets ambiguous. How long was each travel? I don't know. Right?
Yeah, then there's a 7-day rest.
Now, here's a 7-day rest. So that one's not ambiguous at all. So I would say at least 1 day per each one of these places, right? So that's 14.
Yeah,
And
but all of this we're leading up to when he arrives in Jerusalem, which was Shavuot, which was for Pentecost.
for Pentecost. But so my point is here, if you believe the earlier date, you really have to make these many days and these other, rest travels small and like almost nothing, I would say, because the part of the problem is I don't know how long it took to go each one of these periods in between, because I don't know. I did try to find.
Well, I mean, the distances between islands on the Aegean are not that great, because the Aegean Sea is not that big.
Sure. And so maybe 1, but this is where it's ambiguous, though, is what I'm getting at. Okay. And
Yeah,
there's going to be more ambiguity as we go down.
you're not wrong, and you're not wrong about the ambiguity. There's not a lot of detail given in the account.
Right. And then this one just says more travel. It doesn't really say about staying or not, but more travel. Okay. But how long was that travel? Okay. And then here, more travels and 1 day of rest. And when he had finished our course from Tyre, we came to
Ptolemais.
Okay, and settled the brethren, abode with them 1 day. So, more travel and 1 day of rest. Okay. 8. You want to read that one?
And the next day we that were of Paul's company departed and came unto Caesarea, and we entered into the house of Philip the evangelist, which was one of the 7, and abode with him.
Okay. So, a day of rest and more travel. Saw someone, and they probably visited with him for a while. So, I mean, that could be
Philip the evangelist, same Philip who baptized there's the same Philip who baptized the eunuch.
Yes, I believe so. And some other baptisms that he did, right? But anyways,
Right.
yes. And I don't know for sure, but I wonder if this points that he was one of the 7 presidents of the 70. Okay.
That's quite possible.
But I mean, that's not.
And what that indicates is that one could be a president of the 70 and not have the Melchizedek priesthood because he could not give the Holy Ghost.
Right. And that's another detail to get into.
But that's more about organization of a church, not so much.
And so anyways, okay. So 21:10, and we tarried there many days. How many days is that? This is where it gets ambiguous, right?
Yep.
So who knows? Where came down from Judea a certain prophet named Agabus. Okay.
Agabus.
But anyways, the main reason I bring this one out is many days they stayed for many days.
Probably taking a cushy rest at a friendly stop.
Yeah, that's fine. But and we'll see. There's more of these. Okay, in fact, let's go get there. Not arrived at Jerusalem yet. This is where anyways. And when he came unto us, Paul took girdle and bound his own hands and feet and said, "Thus saith the Holy Ghost, so shall the Gentiles at Jerusalem bind the man who owneth the girdle." Okay, so this is where someone's telling Paul, you probably shouldn't keep going because you're going to have a problem, which he did, right? But Paul was a little stubborn. Okay. Anyways, but here's another one, Acts 21:15. And after those days, we took up our courage and went to Jerusalem. So how many days was that?
Right. Except that we know that he arrived for Pentecost.
Right. I mean, up here he says he tried to make it. We don't even know if he made it. And so this is where it adds to the ambiguity. But with all these days of rest that he did, if he did arrive, it's really putting it close if he could have made it to the earlier date, if at all, is my main
I don't think he
here.
could have. I don't think he could have.
I don't think so, but I am giving some benefit of the doubt because I don't know how much each one of these days these travels were. I don't know how many days the many tarryings were, right? Except one, it does say specifically 7, but others, it's really ambiguous.
And the one where it says 7 really casts, oh boy.
Right, right.
If you're gonna go for that early date.
Right. It's really putting it really tight, which if you're an apostle trying really hard to get there at Jerusalem, you wouldn't be tearing many days to make it so you barely get there on time. Is my opinion, right?
No, that doesn't make
But
any
I
sense.
do understand that is reading into the text some. But I think with the other evidences that Pentecost is the later date.
But given the
If
fact
it's
that
going by
given the fact that
seasons of
given
what's
the fact-
harvest.
may I, given the fact that this whole trip begins with this whole trip is detailing of Pentecost, is basically detailing because Pentecost was one of the pilgrimage holidays. So this whole thing, 20 and 21, is detailing a Pentecost pilgrimage
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
because it
And-
starts with the
And not
first
to get
Sabbath.
Yankery again, this
starts
verse
with the
7
first
is
Sabbath.
the count of the surf. It's the count of the Sabbaths.
Yep. So that's where you have to look at all of this, is that this is the count of the Sabbaths in the 50 days.
Yeah.
They're doing the 2 counts.
Yeah.
They're doing them both.
Yeah. Anyways, those are things that I had planned. I mean, we could do more, but that's what I had planned, unless other
I'm
people
starting
have
to get,
specific questions.
I'm actually kind of fired up about that whole thing.
Okay, so maybe let's pause for a minute, okay?